History is full of the stories and incidences of famous and very powerful kings and kingdoms. Centuries before, every dynasty had a recognizable monarch who ruled their kingdoms for ages, and their stories ended up where they were hopeless and armless about their dynasty. Some had great success, while others just counted the money on the throne. King Tutankhamun was the king of Egypt, and we're discussing his reign and achievements today. King Tutankhamun, his real name was Tutankhaten, by name King Tut, thrived 14th century BCE, Lord of antiquated Egypt, ruled 1333 to 23 BCE, known essentially for his unembellished burial place, KV 62, Burial Chamber 62, found in the Valley of the Kings in 1922. During his rule, incredible guides re-established the customary Egyptian religion and workmanship, the two of which had been put aside by his archetype Akhenaten, who was driven by the Amarna unrest. He turned into the superstar pharaoh he is today in 1922 CE, when the paleologist Howard Carter found his nearly flawless burial place in the Valley of the Kings. While it was at first idea that Tutankhamun was a minor ruler, whose rule was of little result, assessment has changed as additional proof has become visible. Today, Tutankhamun is perceived as a significant pharaoh who returned request to a land left in Bedlam by his dad's political strict changes, and who might know uncertainly have made further amazing commitments to Egypt's set of experiences, if not for his initial death. Tutankhamun went to the seat upon the passing of his dad in 1336 BCE, at 8 or 9 years old. Smaller than expected images of sovereignty were found in his burial place, and it appears to be likely he played with these as a little youngster as he was being prepared for future principal. Hawass expresses, some of these were engraved with his original name, exhibiting that he was delegated as Tutankhaten. Between the death of Akhenaten and the rising of Tutankhaten, there was a break, pharaoh named Smenkhkare, about whom little is known. It has been proposed, since Smenkhkare's seat's name was indistinguishable from that of Akhenaten's corregent, that this pharaoh was Nefertiti, who managed while Akhenaten's well-being may have been in decrease, and Tutankhaten was still too youthful to even think about assuming the seat. The ideal of Ma'at's general amicability was the main profound idea in Old Egypt. It was accepted that the place where there is Egypt was an identical representation of the heavenly land, and people had a duty to act with a specific goal in mind on earth to keep offset with the higher domain. By relinquishing the old divine beings and the antiquated practices, Akhenaten would have disturbed this equilibrium and decimated the congruity between individuals and their divine beings. At the point when individuals had to forsake their divine beings, it was thought the divine beings surrendered the individuals. Tutankhamun's changes at that point would have immensely affected the individuals of Egypt, with his rebuilding of widespread agreement. The sanctuaries were revamped, and the clerics who had concealed the iconography and writings identifying with the old religion took them back to their legitimate spots. With balance re-established, Tutankhamun directed his concentration toward rule and to those exercises befitting a lord, for example, horseback riding, chasing, preparing in military abilities, and appreciating recreation time with his young spouse. Tutankhamun, likewise directed at the Opet festival, was his sovereign and charged his financer to complete a monastery assessment of the relative multitude of temples of the land. The castle at Thebes, which he imparted to Ankhe-Senamun. The military, whose preparation and preparing had been ignored by Akhenaten, was not at this point effectuous battling, compel it had been under the rule of Tutankhamun's granddad, Amenhotep III. The officer of the military, Horemheb, who was held in high esteem as one of Tutankhamun's main guides, was more than once fruitless in his missions against the Hittites. Egypt neglected to recover Kadesh and furthermore lost various other vassal states. The Hittites developed all the more impressive as Tutankhamun attempted to re-establish Egypt to its previous wonder, and, done dreading meditation from the Egyptian military, the Hittites wrecked the reign of the Mitanni, who had once been a partner of Egypt. The high school lord more likely than not discovered his position overwhelming in any case. Still, he appears to have put forth a valiant effort to recover the nation's present from its new past. What he may have achieved in a more extended rule will never be known, as he kicked the bucket arriving at the age of 20. The death of the youthful ruler has been called secretive for quite a long time. However, there truly is no secret included. Numerous individuals kicked the bucket youthful in the old world, similarly the same number of do in the current day. The harm to Tutankhamun's skull, which early antiquarians referred to as confirmation that he was killed. Every historian shares different stories of the death of this very young king. Some said that he passed away due to untreated tooth infection, which grew larger and took his life. Others said that the king was not genetically disposed for a long life. These theories were rejected after the news was confirmed that he was murdered.